We're starting tonight with Matt. Welcome, Matt. Thank you. I can anticipate the questions that most of you want to ask, because I ask it every year, and people say, I'm glad you asked that. I've always wondered. How does he do it? Every single day, something comes along to make our life a little bit more bearable, or to have a blessed interruption between the ghastly Nick Robinson and Michel Hussein, who try to explain the wonderful cartoon. They sort of get there. But it makes a welcome relief in the morning. But Matt makes a welcome relief because we almost go under the bedclothes with the awfulness of what we hear, and suddenly we look at a Matt cartoon, he strings it all together, we laugh, we're in control of life again. So Matt is a national treasure, to use the cliche. And he produces that episode. And I think he's on the most terrific form. In the midst of the really most dull news that we've ever encountered. Really boring politics, pestilence, plague, Boris, everything. How does he manage to find ideas amongst that? But he does. And there's always a special slant on it. So Matt, how do you spend your day?
Well, recently I've been start the morning and think of as many jokes as I can, and then rip it up about middle of the afternoon when a prime minister's resigned, or we have a new cabinet or something like that. What's extraordinary is that sort of there are lots of subjects that you feel like, I really can't do a joke on this. I remember the week after Her Majesty the Queen died, I thought, well, I've got to just take the week off. And then I thought, well, there are lots of people queuing. I could maybe make jokes about queuing. And then Prince Charles got in a fury with his pen. So I thought, well, I could make a joke about that. So actually, in the end, I did a full week of jokes afterwards. And it was... they were very, and I didn't think I was going to be able to. It was sort of very popular, and there's a piece downstairs which was written, one of the tributes to her, which mentions the lunch I had at Buckingham Palace, and it was an amazing time that I got a phone call about sort of eight months beforehand saying, are you free on Tuesday the something of November or whenever it was? And I said, I think I am, yes. And they said, well, would you like to come to lunch with the Queen and Prince Philip? I said, well, then I think I'm quite local, so it's quite handy. And I'm bored of pret-a-manger, so but I went along, and it was the Queen and Prince Philip, and there were four of us, and we were waiting in a room for them to arrive, and then we heard the corgis, and the corgis came bursting into the room, and of course made us all laugh. And then the Queen and Prince Philip were there, and we were given a little guide. Why don't you talk to Prince Philip during lunch, during the main course, and then you can turn and talk to an equerry for the dessert course, and then maybe have coffee with Her Majesty. So I went through to a room to have coffee with the Queen. I thought, I've got to think of something to say, or I just won't say anything at all. So I said, I thought, because at Buckingham Palace you sort of walk round all these staircases, I said, I thought I was, at the front of the building, but now I realise we're at the back of the palace. And the Queen looked at me and said, we don't have a garden at the front. And then she told me how the geese were ruining her lawn in Sandringham. And this was when Harry and William were talking. So I said, well, you should get Harry and William to shoot them. And she said, well, I do. But they said, and we had this, she asked me about my grandfather, because she'd knighted my grandfather and given him a companion of honour. And I thought at the time, well, the Royals do love this hereditary principle, don't they? I know who you're related to. And at the end of the lunch, suddenly the Queen and Philip disappeared. And lady in waiting spotted me as a weak link, and it's a very good trick for getting rid of guests. She said to me, "Did you have a nice lunch?" And I said, "Oh, it was wonderful." And as I was talking, she turned round and left the room. And I was mid-sentence. So I sort of ran after her with my story about lunch. And found myself in the courtyard with my coat on. And I thought, that's a classy move, yeah, to get rid of guests. But I don't remember why I got onto this story. Anyway, it's extraordinary how, you know, subjects that you get. I mean, when Putin invaded Ukraine was another subject. I thought, well, you know, I'm just going to have another holiday that Chris is always encouraging me to take. And, but in fact, you know, oligarchs having their yachts stolen off or taken off them, and being banned from owning football clubs, and so you actually you can, in the end, you can find a funny angle to nearly everything. And the way I go about it is I just write down every possible subject that I could do a joke on, and then just go through, try and think of as many as I can, and I go and see the editor in the afternoon with my sort of top 2 or 3, and then he picks one.
Top 2 or 3 out of how many?
Well, it's like it's a huge pad, completely full of scribbles.
Can I have some?
And then you know, and he's very good. He says, well, you know, sometimes he picks one, and I say you picked the wrong one. And so, but it's sort of. It helps being in the office as well, because I do sometimes show them around to people, and get there are people who give me a very honest opinion, and other people who are a bit kinder. So depending on how I'm feeling, I show them around and get a sort of straw poll of which are the favourites. But then, you know, sometimes things do change. You know, I have recently had to sort of start all over again when things have happened late on, so I could do with a bit of calm for a while.
So it's interesting, like some cartoonists like being at home, some like being in the office to get the stimulation you just talked about.
Yeah.
Peter Brook said, "Oh, I never want to work at home," but when they sent him home because they wanted to protect their property, they sent him home, and he's never come back. And he says he doesn't miss it at all.
Well,
but you went home, and did you miss it?
Well, I discovered 2 things. One is I love being in the office, and the number 2 thing was I waste an awful lot of time in the office when I think I'm going and talking to the news desk about important matters of state, and I'm just gossiping about what's going on. So I actually find I tend to get more done at home, but it's more fun in the office. Terrible.
Where did you get your COVID?
That was I got it in London and selflessly took it home and gave it to everyone in my family. And so we were we all had different symptoms. But yes, I got it early on when it was still fashionable.
Is it true you put in writing that you took the Trump cure and
the bleach?
Little
yes.
bit of bleach?
He knows what he's talking about. Yeah, absolutely. Are there any questions? Yeah, there's one there.
Last time we saw you, you didn't have a beard. Who are you hiding from?
Now this is my lockdown beard, which is it's a bit like Brexit, how it's divided the country. But my wife, who isn't here yet, but she will be, she's in favour of it, so she has the casting vote on it. another question?
How often does your editor censor your cartoon
The
choices?
funny thing is, they're braver than I am. Like, I have in the past done jokes which I've just done for this will make you laugh, but it's not for the paper. And they say, oh God, you could do that. In fact, Charles Moore, who was an early editor of mine, said his biggest regret was I did a joke when the Duchess of York, she was having a holiday with her financial advisor. I did a cartoon of her with her financial advisor on a sunbed and him saying, I must warn you, things can go down as well as up. I said this is, but he says he wishes he'd put it in the paper. In fact, I must say, to his credit, Ian Hislop telephoned me and said he'd heard about this joke because I'd put it on the notice board of the Telegraph, and he said he'd heard about it and could he use it for the front cover of Private Eye. He sent me a cheque. So yes.
Of late, have you been waiting for the news desk to tell you can go in case there's something that
Well,
changes?
I do actually have in my mind, you know, how many prime ministers will we have had by tomorrow morning? And so I do think, how likely is this, you know, to be overtaken by events? And you know, when Boris was thinking of re-entering, you know, I just didn't go near that because you know you never know with him. Well, you do know he'll let you down. So I would, you have to be very aware. And I think the Telegraph was, you know, I think we had a big piece saying, let's back Boris by somebody, by Nadeem Zahawi, yes, and that was at 9 p.m. Boris withdrew. So. Yes.
Do you have some sense that you're almost a victim of your own success? So if ever you wanted to do anything differently or leave the Telegraph, your fans would just beg you to stay and come back again?
The only example I have of that, which I have had, I'm embarrassed to say, is that a story comes back.
You've got better hearing than I have. What did you say?
A victim of my own success. Well,
Can't do anything different.
Yeah, exactly. Well, when subjects come back, I have in the past thought. In fact, something very recently happened. That so much had happened recently in politics, and I remembered. Oh, I did do that joke that was very popular about somebody saying, I'm reading politics at university, the course covers from Thursday lunchtime to Friday. and I thought, I wonder if I could do a version of that, because maybe people forgot it. And then everyone started tweeting, last time we had a period like this, Matt did this joke. And I was going to copy that, do it again. So it is a problem when, you know, when people start retweeting your old stuff that you have to compete with yourself.
Yes.
Have you the latest thing with Matt Hancock joining I'm a Celebrity?
Oh, yeah, that was, God bless Matt Hancock. Yeah. That did come to my rescue. That did come to my rescue. I think we might have it actually.
Really?
It is for tomorrow, yes. Exactly.
You heard it here first.
Yes,
We're about to show you tomorrow's Telegraph cartoon.
Right. Does anyone have a question while I'm going? Go.
Do you remember all the cartoons you've done?
I have a pretty. Sometimes I think of that and I think, oh, that would work. And then I get a terrible sense of deja vu and think, now, did I think of that and not use it, or think of it and use it? And the Telegraph do have a pretty good sort of library of my cartoons, and you just type in a word, and everyone with that word comes up. So I can't. Sometimes I think, oh, thank goodness I didn't do it. Yeah, exactly.
Oh, here it is.
Oh, you printed it out better.
Now, this is the size that they appear. Same size.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
You can show that side.
Yes, okay. Man in pub.
Can you read it out?
I ensure I am socially distanced from my TV whenever Matt Hancock is appearing on it.
What is he thinking about? Yes, please.
Do you just write exclusively for the Telegraph, or do your cartoons appear in other outlets? Because I'm wondering if you're not Mick Newman in disguise.
No, well, no, we're two different people. Yes, I promise you. No, it's extraordinary that the two things I'm often asked is, how do you do it every day? I can't believe you do it every day. And then right after they've said that, they say, and what else do you do? 30 seconds ago, you couldn't believe I did this. So I have managed to turn it into a full-time job, so I'm shattered.
Do you sometimes think nowadays that you just can't believe it? Just more and more subjects come hoving into view.
Yes, I know.
In fact, we sometimes think that you're behind a lot. We think that COVID was developed in a little lab in Norfolk.
Exactly. Absolutely true. Yes, there was one day when I went over to the news editor, and he was looking a little pale and exhausted. And he said that there were, I think it was 12 stories in the paper that on any day would be the front page splash, you know, and it's an extraordinary. I mean, the editor did say to me about just in newspapers that not only is change sort of continuous, but it's speeding up, you know, and I think he's right. Yeah.
Are there any personalities that you miss?
What? Who? Politicians?
That come and go. Will you miss Truss?
You'll be the only one.
There's always a new one to replace. You know, you're never. No, I think.
This is what I told Peter Brooks when he started pining for Prescott.
Yeah.
There'll be another one coming along. More egregious than before.
Yeah. Did you have a question?
Matt, will the Sunday Telegraph Sport cartoon ever come back?
Yeah. Well, thank you for reminding me. I used to do a sport joke. Funnily enough, although I do like sport, I didn't know enough about it. You know, it's like people who follow sport are such experts. I always felt like I was going to get myself in trouble, and also a lot of sports fans tend to be terribly funny as well. So it was difficult to find a joke that hadn't been made by a fan already. I found that a really difficult cartoon to do, actually, just because I didn't think my knowledge was good enough.
It wasn't that difficult, because I've got 35 hanging in my
Well, yeah.
Slightly related to the last but one question. Are you worried that Rishi might prove less amusing or less accent than the previous two incumbents? And may I add an appendix, which is, can you explain why the Sunday Telegraph, from what I can tell, is no longer publishing the last week's maths?
Oh, I didn't. I missed that. I'll go and
I wish you
flounce in
complain.
and. I find that I'm confident that Rishi will supply lots of material. And I mean, I think whether it's not Rishi himself but politicians in general. And there's always so much else going on, you know, that as Chris said, we're not sure.
And it comes round again, doesn't it? The last questioner just brought a Matt original, which was Rishi Sunak being got in the sweepstake.
Oh, yes.
The irony of this is that it was dated April.
Really?
Yes, so it comes around.
And it was considered bad luck to have got rich.
Yes, that's true.
That's the point.
That's true.
I'm sorry, the Liz Truss sweepstake joke is still available. Very good, very good. All right. Are you thinking of taking a holiday soon?
Yes, I thought so. I thought I'm having a weekend off, but I promise I'll be back on Monday. Yeah.
Some people say this is the worst 3 words in the English language. Matt is away. Have you had any more approaches from proper newspapers?
I think they're bored of me now. They're bored of asking. Yes, exactly. I'm happy to stay where I am at the moment. Yeah.
Spurs Monthly hasn't.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. You know, in fact, the only time I don't know if I've told you this. Somebody said, "Have you ever had a cartoon turned down?" And I used to say no, but I have actually had one turned down, and it was when we moved to Suffolk. Somebody asked me if I'd do a cartoon for the parish magazine. And I said yes, I'd love to do it. And they said, well, it's our Valentine issue. And would you do a cartoon for our Valentine issue? So I said, yes, sure. So I thought, well, I'm in the countryside. What do people do? I thought, well, they go shooting. They shoot. I see them shooting pheasants. So I did Cupid shooting a pheasant. So I sent it off and thought, they'll love this. They'll love how lucky they are. And I didn't hear anything. And eventually I cracked and I sent them an email and said, did you get the cartoon? And they said, yeah, we can't use that. Pheasant shooting stops at the end of February, March, at the end of March. Then every idiot knows that. Yes, that's the only time I've ever had a cartoon rejected was by the parish magazine.
Well, shooting politicians is year round, so we're relying on you.
Did
Yes.
you know that Sky News, they don't show cartoons, but when they do the press preview, they do show yours on from time to time.
Oh,
I wondered if they told you.
They don't ring up and say, we've
They
showed it,
will.
or would you like, no, and actually, sort of it's quite late on in the evening, isn't it? By then,
Yes,
I've sort of,
normally about 20 to 11.
yeah, exactly. I've usually had enough of news by then.
I'm reminded of that lovely story where you were used without permission.
Yes.
Remind us of that.
That was that we have a very fierce syndication department, and somebody came to me to say, we've discovered that the IRA, the Sinn Féin newsletter, which I think is called something like Il Plus Bas or something, has republished one of your cartoons. And he said to me, did you give them permission to use this? And I said, no, I didn't. And I said, did you give them permission to use it? And he said, no, we didn't. And I said, well, what are you going to do? And he said, I think we're going to let this one go. You can have that one for free.
Anybody else?
Have you been tempted to do one about the Ted Kravitz affair?
No, I've resisted that. Yeah.
The what?
Ted Kravitz. He's the commentator on Sky, on the Sky Formula One, and of course he put an enormous gap by saying that Lewis Hamilton was robbed of his title last year.
Well, I'm surprised you haven't done that.
Yes, my sports. That would have been number 36 for you, sports.
Could I
Yeah.
make a plea that obviously the last couple of months, the political stuff has been so brilliant. I mean, I'm sure you've worked very hard, but it must have been enormous fun. Could I just make a plea that your wonderful, baffled, middle-class man doesn't get completely lost?
Yes.
I think, like a lot of us, he is my complete hero.
Yeah.
And whenever, you know, he says, we have 3 alcohol days a week, we pen a man in the village. It's absolutely brilliant. So please don't
Bring it
forget
back,
it.
yes.
Just from time to time, in amongst all the excitement
Yes,
of this trust and so on,
exactly.
if you could just constantly, just
Yes.
once in a while, have him back, because he's a hero to many of us.
You know he was my parents' neighbour, and he never knew he was on the front of the telegraph.
Anybody else? Thank you. Thank you very much, Matt. 40 minutes to chucking out time, so lots of time to drink.